Well, today, and I always start my podcasts with well today because I'm so excited all the time. And today, I have a gentleman by the name of Ryan, and I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce it correct, but is it Ryan Hough?
It's Huff.
It is Huff. Okay. Well, so
Yes.
there we go. See, first mistake off the bat here.
Okay.
Anyway, it's all good. Ryan Hough is a mindset coach who helps individuals break free from self sabotage and outdated patterns, guiding them toward authentic, purpose driven lives. By integrating human design into his work, Ryan empowers clients to unlock their unique potential, a practice he has personally experienced transformative and benefits from. Originally from a small town near Toronto, Canada, Ryan pursued his lifelong dream of moving to California, where he built a career in acting and modeling. And you know what? I can see why and I can see how. And there's, going to be lots of wonderful women followers on this that are going to be contacting you just because I think it's great. I love it. But he's got so much more to offer than his beauty, his beautiful soul, and his wonderful looks. So Ryan pursued his lifelong dream of moving to California, where he built this career in acting and modeling, landing a starring role in the sci-fi film Monsters of Man, which became a hit on Amazon Prime and Apple TV in 2020. Ryan's journey took a profound turn in 2019 after attending a 10-day silent Now, I've been here, done this with the yoga, but is it Vip, how do you say it, Ryan?
I know. I always struggle with it. It's Vipassana, from what I understand.
Vipassana. Yeah, the
Yeah.
retreat, right? Okay. So this experience deepened your commitment to self accountability, forgiveness, and self love, sparking a passion for helping others transform their lives. And that's why he's here today, because it is about transformation. So, having done his own shadow work, Ryan brings compassion, direct honesty, and a deep understanding of personal growth. He combines healthy masculine and feminine energy to guide others in overcoming victim mentality and stepping into their power. Ryan is a lifelong learner, exploring topics like psychology, the subconscious mind, spirituality, and history to continually refine his approach. His mission is to help others break free from limitations, reclaim their authenticity, and embrace a life of purpose and fulfillment. Well, welcome. I am so honored to have you here today. And I know, like I said, our listeners are going to just be amazed and intrigued with the want of more information about you and from you. So I will definitely be sharing your information so people can be in touch with you, Ryan. So welcome.
Thank you. Wow. That was a
Yeah.
great intro. Thank you so much, Collie. I appreciate you.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
so deserving. So I'm going to ask you a question because I know we both have met through Jason Christoph,
Yes.
and I just want to know what motivated you to become a self-sabotage and mindset coach.
Well, I guess I discovered Jason's work through 2020, through that
Right?
whole crazy time period, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so obviously through acting, I definitely had like a real profound interest in psychology and human behavior and what makes us do the things that we do. The cool thing about acting is that I guess to do it well, the goal is always to try to do it from a non-judgmental point of view, to try to embody the character and to without any of the judgments. And otherwise it becomes like character, like almost like a character, like
Right.
sketch comedy or something like that. So yeah, he was just dropping some amazing memes, and it just was profound. It just was like the truth just has like a certain weight to it that just is profound. That just is so sort of in your face that you can't really deny it.
Right.
And yeah, and then of course through the acting and then the his work with like the subconscious mind and whatnot, I could just see that it just would truly resonated with me and why yeah again why we do the things that we do and then this whole concept of that maybe the programming of it all, right? That maybe there is some sort of, like a shadow work or behind the scenes puppeteer that's swaying us to do the things that we ultimately are doing. That turns into self-sabotage, and it can be confusing if you're not
Right.
necessarily aware and conscious. So, yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. So, do you have a specific moment when, you were going through this time and you went, ah, that's it?
Specifically with Jason's work or the
Yeah.
self-sabotage.
Yeah, with that,
Yeah.
because we'll lead into other things through that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great question. I'm not sure if it was like a specific moment that I can recall right now. I mean, I remember the time that I first saw his work. I
Hmm.
remember it was a meme. It was talking about hospitals and the vending machines that are in hospitals and how there was just like, crazy dynamic of, you're here to supposedly get health, but yet you're only able to, get Snickers bars and Coke, right?
Yeah.
So, and that was pretty much, that was like, yeah, I mean, it just seemed so simple and yet it was profound as well. So, but yeah, I think I want to say that I became like a certified self-sabotage coach in 20, I don't know, I guess was it 20, I guess it was the end of 2023, I believe.
Okay.
So, but I had always had an interest in coaching. I guess I had always, amongst my friend group, I was always the one either offering invited advice or unsolicited advice, and definitely walked into some of those certain dynamics where if it wasn't asked for, I definitely learned that like, okay, I can't just always give my unsolicited advice. So I was always interested in coaching and guiding and but I just didn't know exactly how to do it. And I felt sort of some imposter syndrome. And I felt that I resonated really well with Jason's work. And I thought that I needed to get some sort of certification in order to feel, I guess, worthy or enough to offer services, I guess, and then get monetary means in return.
Right.
Uh, yeah. But yeah, sorry, I don't know if I have like a specific
Hmm.
thing. I think it was definitely a transformation or like incremental, right? There's always
Right.
levels to our, I guess our, whatever you want to say, awakening or
Hmm.
unlearning or whatnot.
Exactly. Well, I think not think, I know that's a very powerful visual about a vending machine because from all my training in neurolinguistic programming, 60% of the world operates visually. So when you see, a picture or a photograph of something like that, it cannot not affect a person, right? And even to the point now where they have vending machines in BC and on the island with right next to the hospital. And this is so true. My son-in-law was there to visit, his grandmother and his father, and he was appalled at the fact that he took his grandmother to do an appointment at the hospital, and there's a vending machine with all kinds of paraphernalia for drugs. Like, we're talking not just Doritos here. We're talking hardcore drugs, right? So those kind of visuals are like, whoa. So no doubt that had a ripple effect in your life. And wow, so grateful that it did because, you're here, right? So with regards to all that, let's take it back to what had to have been there in your, there had to have been something, and I'm intrigued by this because there had to have been something in your childhood that created, that sense of integrity and values that would then play out more through the information that Jason has shared with us as when we train with him. But there's also the moment where you went to Hollywood, and I did too, and we'll get into that. But let's talk about those values that must have been, somewhere along the way, whether it was your upbringing within your Christian values with your schooling or your parents or something strong had to have been there to take hold to even add on to now what you do. That's what I'm trying to get at. So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, so I grew up in I'm the youngest of three.
Right,
I have two older siblings. So and yeah, I went to a private Christian school growing up. We definitely had Christian values.
right,
However, as we weren't as Baptist as maybe some of my classmates were. And
right,
so I had learned early on it was this crazy dynamic where I knew that I wasn't necessarily the same as my classmates in the sense that my siblings and then my mom and my dad would sometimes listen to the radio, listen to some rock and roll, and that was of course that was not necessarily it was somewhat frowned upon. So I had almost kind of embodied this like double life, this double agent, even as
yep.
like as a 5, 6 year old. And so I guess maybe that's where the acting kind of came into play, where it was yeah, I was very conscious of that. And then, yeah, I guess it's just, throughout the years, I'm the youngest, like I said, of three. So my sister's 11 years older than I am, and my brother's 8 years. So I
Okay,
definitely learned through their trials and errors as well, and definitely observant of them. I wanted to be basically my brother growing up. And and then, yeah, I don't know if I'm answering this question
you are.
exactly, but but yeah, I think it's just I think just understanding that maybe that there wasn't necessarily always like there was whether there was the like the quote unquote right way or the wrong way. And I definitely had to learn that and I continue to learn it. But I had to almost unlearn a lot of my nice guy tendencies,
Hmm.
trying to get along to go along. And that played out with, even like romantic relationships with women, friendships as well. And then of course, obviously dynamics with my own family members.
Right,
I ended up getting to the point of where I wanted to have real authentic relationships. And I wanted to sort of rid myself of these cycles that I found continue to play out, where there were sort of this certain victim mentality would play out. So, I was blessed that I had some great acting coaches along the way. And the cool thing about acting was that you're always learning to like, you don't want to play the victim. You're playing winners. You're playing the role of rising above their circumstances. And so I started to really kind of embody that. And I started to realize that there was a polarity within my personal life and what I wanted to play on, or what I wanted to get hired for.
right.
And so I had to kind of face some of that stuff. And that was challenging too, especially as some of like the recovering nice guy elements, because I didn't want to necessarily rock the boat. But but it was, it was all for good reason, because I needed to kind of face some of those challenges and address it. And it wasn't necessarily it was what I guess, I'm kind of beating around the bush, but there was certain like criticism and certain elements within, certain family members that I just needed to address. And and then during 2020, I guess when I found Jason's work, I had I guess the courage, and I had already experienced some being ostracized from my own family. So it wasn't really that big of a deal to start to speak out about what I saw as the nonsense that was going on.
Right.
And I don't think if I hadn't experienced that, that would have been really challenging to do, right? To break free from the quote unquote whatever the safety of the tribe and whatnot. So I was already kind of unlearning that. And I think it was all like it was beautiful how it all kind of panned out, because it was basically 2018 was like the real sort of pivotal moment. And then 2019, I went to that Vipassana retreat and
Hmm.
just was alone with my feelings and my thoughts, and I could just see it like a roller coaster of just like, man, like I'm experiencing all these emotions and no one's talking to me. I'm not talking to anybody else, and yet I'm experiencing all this nonsense. And so it was just a lot of permission just to be, and then and then self-love, of course, and then forgiveness,
Hmm.
both like self forgiveness as well as, others, and then yeah. And then it ultimately all led me to, I guess, to. discover Jason's work as well, and then break free and start to, I guess, just get more and more courageous and understanding that, like, I guess to be, to be brave or to be courageous is to be also disagreeable, and you have to
Right.
be disagreeable sometimes.
Absolutely. I find it fascinating. I'd like to, if you would share a little bit on a timeline of, so you grew up, you went to high school, and then you pursued your dream by going to Hollywood.
Yes.
Yes. So can you expand on that? Because to have pursued it, obtained it, and be doing so well with how you were doing things and, how it was all playing out for you. And then, yeah, just walk us through that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if I ever really kind of achieved anything. I mean, I lived in and around Hollywood for sure, and I definitely went to auditions. But
Yeah.
and I was fortunate. I definitely have booked a few things, a few jobs, and but yeah, I mean, I'm a lot of it is, as most actors have experienced. It's sort of like this ongoing joke of like, oh, you're an actor. Oh, cool. Which restaurant?
Are you serving in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which bar do you work at, bro?
Right.
So I definitely lived that. I bartended for like longer than a decade, over a decade, and and so that was, it was all so I could free up my days so I could audition,
Right.
and that was definitely my life for the most part, and that yeah. So from after high school, I went to university, went to college, and I ended up dropping out. I was going to become a respiratory therapist, and I could just see that, like, I could almost foresee my future. I was like, man, like, I don't really want to do this. I wasn't interested in it. It just wasn't my
Hmm.
passion or my drive. So I dropped out and I started taking acting classes right away. I had a friend of mine who I would play pickup basketball with, and he was an actor as well. And so I was always like picking his brain and finding out like what classes to take and whatnot. And I had always taken, some sort of, like, I was doing theater and classes during high school and whatnot. So it's always sort of something like a love of mine, but I didn't know exactly how to like be a working actor. So I
Right.
started to do that. And and then yeah, my brother was already living in California at the time. And so I moved down, stayed with him. And then I met my ex-wife at the time. And then from there we yeah, I just started to, again, just continue to take classes, got an agent, had a manager, and I just did it. I would drive. So we were living in the Bay Area at the time, so San Francisco.
Right.
And so I would drive whatever, that's like a 6 hour drive, one way trip. So I would, I would do that, 12-hour round trip just for like a 10-15 minute,
Audition.
not even like a 2 minute audition. So definitely was ambitious and probably a little foolish at the same time, but yeah, I made it work.
You
And
had a
then I
dream.
eventually I had a dream and pursued it. And then, yeah, and then I ended up living in LA for a number of years as well. And that made it a little bit easier. And yeah, I still do a little bit of it
Hmm. Hmm.
now, but mainly just like commercial work and
Right.
here and there. And yeah, I'm in Arizona now, so it's not,
Oh, okay. So,
yeah.
so you moved from California to Arizona when?
In the end of 2020.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was in San Diego at the time,
Right.
during 2020. And yeah, it just was not, I could just see, I had always thought about getting out of California at some point, like the last, like in 2018, 2019. I could just see that, like, it was just,
Hmm.
just with cost of living and whatnot, it was seemingly challenging. And then when, of course, 2020 hit, I just was like, no, I don't. I'm not really liking where this is going per se. And yeah, and Phoenix definitely offered just a little bit more freedom when it comes to, obviously, with the mask mandates and all of that kind of
Yeah.
jazz, because that was definitely, on our periphery for
Oh,
sure.
for
So
sure. I mean, California was just over the top.
Yeah. And
And I
Canada
yeah,
was
and
too,
Canada
unfortunately.
was
Yeah.
too,
Yeah.
and some places still are or still is. Yeah, with the move for you. So were you able to secure, like with regards to you're doing some commercial work and things like that. So obviously that's still part of your package, right? You're still your foot's in there type of thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But my dream has changed a little bit in the
Yeah.
sense of I'm looking at it more like it's a great some extra supplemental income,
Right.
and but my ambitions to quote unquote make it or whatever that means have definitely shifted and pivoted. But
Hmm.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, well, it's interesting about Hollywood, right? We see a lot now being exposed
yeah,
and things that need to come to the light. So many people just think it's or had thought it was the cat's meow, and a lot of people still, are still kind of shaking their heads, I think, in disbelief because there's this whole thing around the illusion, right, of what it offers and the things that go on there that couldn't necessarily be true that go on there in order for people to become more than just doing the odd voiceover, right? I can speak experience because I was living in Vancouver and I was working on the Alan Hamill show, and Jay Bernstein, who was Farrah Fawcett's manager and Suzanne Summers' manager, saw me. And, I was young, my hair was down to my ass. I mean, I had it going on.
I
And
bet.
so he, flew me down to Los Angeles because Farrah Fawcett had decided she was leaving. And so he wanted me to really consider taking over her role. So of course my ego was like, wow, this is great, right? So of course, I flew down there and, the limo is at the airport, the champagne, the jewelry. I mean, there was a beautiful diamond necklace waiting for me in the car. And, then taken to his home, which was, I think it was Greta Garbo's ex home. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's in my book that I'm writing. So anyway, long story short, I'm overlooking the hills of Los Angeles and I'm just like, wow. And I hear this voice say, you've arrived. And I went, oh, hi. Right. And it was Jay. So I spent 3 days there and was, I never did drugs. And yeah, okay, I had champagne or I had a glass of wine or whatever. But I was exposed to so much in those 3 days that without taking away from your story here, but just talking about Hollywood, it was amazing. Like it was scary, amazing what I was exposed to. And there was a major turn down that I turned down in Jay's presence and in his home. And so I went to my room and I don't know where he went, but the next thing I knew was there was a knock on the door and it was Miss Colley, your limo will be picking you up at 5 a.m. You'll be returning to Vancouver
Hmm.
because I turned it down. I turned down the promiscuity, the sexual, the
Yeah,
all that I was going to have to do. Not necessarily because I didn't have the look or the skills, but this was just part of the bait, right? So anyway, I know Hollywood very well. Very well, that portion of it. So what's going on now with regards to all the exposés and everything that's coming to light? Still, so many people are in denial that this could actually go on. And I go, wake up, people. I'm a little girl from Saskatchewan and this happened to me. What do you think? Like, hello, there's a lot of this stuff going on, right? And I'm sure as a very handsome man, you were probably prone and subjected to things as well. And so, right? You know what goes on there. And so, with your values, with my values, I definitely can see the alignment with regards to not necessarily making it such that we would want to be there.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is definitely it is like when you come to terms with it, it's disconcerting, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's the illusion, as you mentioned, is all this allure that it's, you have to like you're just discovered in a coffee shop and you're,
Right.
skyrocketed to fame and fortune and all of that. And I'm sure. hey, listen, it may happen. And I think what we're learning more and more is that it's very orchestrated. There's definitely an agenda.
Hmm.
It's all programming. It really truly is. It's the arm of the military industrial complex. And uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, I personally did not necessarily have any crazy experiences like that. Either I just, yeah, I guess maybe I wasn't as talented
No,
or
no,
whatnot,
I
or
don't
no,
think
no.
it's that. I think it's
Well,
more
it's also I'm
women.
not a female as well.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah, no, for sure.
yeah.
But yeah, but I think it's remarkable, like even though there were great acting coaches and classes, it was a weird thing as of, in retrospect, thinking back, it's this idea, this concept that you're always, as an actor, you're always constantly looking for, I guess, cheat codes to make your work more authentic.
Right,
So, I had an acting coach who was phenomenal. She's worked with, a lot of A-list actors, and it was definitely something I wanted to kind of get towards to finally work and be in her class. And when I did, it was good. It was great. But she told this story of how when she was a young actress and she was coming out of like a studio or an acting class herself, and she ended up getting mugged. And the first thing that she thought of was like, holy shit. And then the second one was like, oh, I got to remember this for my work.
oh
And
wow.
it was a packed studio, and everyone laughed because we all could resonate with that in the sense of that. And I mean, I guess kind of goes back to self-sabotage in the sense of like this yearning to like make art from your pain and also but to hold on to it in this weird way as well.
Right.
And so yeah, so it's an interesting concept because you're always constantly like in tune with your feelings, and and then of course that's human behavior. And so yeah, it's a weird dynamic. And then you could become, if you're not coming from a place of health and like I guess like a healthy place, it can be, you can get in over your head for sure.
Oh
And
yeah.
and then you, next thing you know, you end up living out these some of these this concept of this idea of what you think it should be. I mean, I definitely had some, early programming of, around finances as well. I thought I should be like a struggling actor. And so, living on couches or like sharing, like a one bedroom with another dude, I'd be in the living room, he'd be in the bedroom, like just like stuff
Yeah.
that just is not necessarily conducive to, but then also like, playing all that out. So, but yeah, it is. And then of course, since 2020, that has definitely opened up my, yeah, the ideas of what Hollywood really is. And yeah, it's startling. I don't know, I don't know what platforms. I don't want to say too many,
Right.
certain words, but like MK Ultra, and you can mute it if you want to, but like
No,
that's
it's
definitely
okay. This is
huge. Okay.
yeah. No, this is the real stuff here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a real thing,
It's a real thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so a lot of these celebrities, they have handlers and in the music industry as well. And
Oh,
it's startling for sure. And
it is.
yeah,
And like I mentioned with regards to what is going on is yeah, especially within the music industry now, but that that's a ripple effect into film and television as well, right? So without mentioning any names, we know one person who's sitting in jail right now, but
yeah,
how many are on the A list, right? That are probably, and apparently some are leaving the States because they know that they have or partook in activities. And it just is. It's, you
well,
know,
and also with, sorry,
no, go
interrupt, but
ahead.
with that, there's a lot of insidiousness, and not to take away from, some of, their behavior, but that's the crazy thing with programming, and especially with MK
Exactly.
Ultra, is that they get you to, like, even though you're the victim, they get you to then be the perpetrator as well.
Exactly.
So then that's what makes it so, you look at, yeah, The gentleman that is in jail right now, I'm sure, unfortunately, he was also probably a victim himself.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah,
It with my work in family constellations and systemic trauma, it's fascinating because to decode it, his upbringing, right? You'd go back to that. You go back to the upbringing, and the upbringing is such that it was very easy to have him swayed, to take the brain and mess with it, right? And so there is we all have the victim perpetrator in us, but it's to what degree do we play out and which one wins more. And so with him, his childhood, it's right there. I mean, it's just right there. It's so easy to have taken him and done what he did and still do what he's didding. It's true. And so everybody goes through it at some level, whether they're in Hollywood or not. It is just that simple. We do have the victim and the perpetrator in us, and it's to the degree that we play it out, right? So with, self-sabotage, you can definitely, see where we are, playing it out. What role are we playing out? Getting back to the acting, but it's really not even an acting role because it is so in, inbred in us with regards to the patterns, and it all stems from childhood. It really does.
it
It,
does.
it really does. It stems from childhood, and then it stems from our parents' childhood and their parents' childhood and stuff like that. So, but it's at some point, like you, when you decided, enough, and you know the dispensary and other things came into play for you. It was like, okay, I'm turning this into something different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And just like it's like a wow moment. I love it because from there the trajectory just goes, and major shifts start happening, right?
Absolutely. No, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. No, and then it's the stories that we are telling ourselves to ourselves about ourselves, and eventually you want to, yeah, it's like, is that story working for you? And you can flip that script and start to, yeah, not to continue to play that, old ancestral story from, your parents,
Yeah.
parents, and et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, you can start to, you're breaking patterns essentially.
Yeah,
And yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. And so where do you, like, you're in Arizona and you're doing coaching now.
yeah,
How are you finding it? Is it is
I
it
love it.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so rewarding for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I incorporate human design as you mentioned in the
Hmm.
intro. So I don't
Yeah,
know how
can you
much you know about
yeah,
human
I
design.
want
Yeah,
you
so
to expand on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So human design is essentially it's a system of self-knowledge and following your own authority. And what that looks like is essentially following the authority of the innate intelligence of the body
Right?
and then relegating the mind to be that of the observer. So the mind is like it's a brilliant tool to obviously for assessing situations, this versus that, communicating ideas and thoughts, but it makes sort of a crummy master. And we can kind of see with all the, what we've been talking about, the mind control and whatnot.
Yep.
So people can be, swayed so much, right?
Exactly.
And so, on paper, we can look at like a contract and it looks like it's a slam dunk, but if you're listening to your intuition, your body, it's saying, there's just something that's not there. Or in contrast, there's something that maybe look like it just like it's complete garbage, but there's something about you that's saying, no, there's a gem in there somewhere. And that's sort of like your authority. So listening to that. And then there's different types. And so I'm a projector, and a projector is like value is in what they see and not necessarily always in what they do. And
Okay.
so, and part of that, I guess the kryptonite is that, which I alluded to earlier, is that sometimes, you can offer advice and some of the unsolicited advice that can get you into somewhat kind of predicaments, right? Where you stick your
Yeah.
foot in your mouth. And I've definitely had to learn the hard way. And so, but yeah, so when it comes to coaching, if I'm being invited into, and asked and seeked out for certain advice or what I see or my intuition, it's, it just feeds my soul. I love it. So it's great. So I'm able to offer that and not necessarily, getting any kind of like, I guess collateral damage being done. So,
Right.
and part of that is also to, as a projector, you always kind of wait for the invitation. So you have to be invited in because otherwise, you know, seeing someone else who doesn't want to be seen can feel like being exposed and it can
Mm,
be too vulnerable, right?
right.
And
Okay.
so you have to kind of wait to offer that some of that guidance. And so as far as coaching goes, I love it. Yeah, it feeds
So
my
yeah. So what can you walk me through, like, if if I was to source you out, right?
yes.
What would it entail?
So my like the actual coaching
Yeah,
itself,
yeah.
or
So
yeah,
our listeners could, you know,
absolutely.
lean into this and
Yeah,
maybe, yeah, understand it more of what you the process, right?
absolutely. I just asked for, like a quick little questionnaire that just kind of gets me up to speed to what the challenge or the situation that we're looking at,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can jump on a 20-minute call to just to see if it's a good fit for either one of us. And then if it
Right,
is something that's of interest, then we go from there. And I have a pretty extensive questionnaire. And again, that just kind of gets me again so that when we jump on these Zoom calls, I'm already kind of hitting the road running. So we're not
right,
necessarily filling our, 75 minutes like of getting some of the backstory. I'm already kind of aware of what's happening. And a lot of that has to do with our old, our upbringing, some of that software that was implemented, like, during those
right.
formidable years of 0 to 7 years of age, mom and dad, siblings, some of the health stuff. I'm big on like EMFs and incandescent lighting and circadian rhythm. And so we just have an idea of where we are with that. And then our dreams too, because we need to know like where we're going,
Mm-hmm.
the trajectory in which we want to kind of go after. And that kind of helps with discovering why we're having some of these subconscious programs that are kind of getting in our own way. And
Okay.
then, yeah, and then we have an opening ceremony, which I think is beautiful in the sense of like it helps with breaking those patterns. And then we do a human design reading or a session if that's of interest, do some shadow work, and yeah, and then go from there. So I offer like month to month coaching.
Right,
I think 2 to 3 months in order to kind of really create some, I guess to create an impact and transformation, I think is key. And
right.
we can usually meet, once a week or more if that's of interest and kind
Mm-hmm.
of just based on the individual. Yeah.
Interesting. How does the human design portion of it play out? Like, what does it entail for, say, I came to you and was very interested in doing the human design. So what what would you take me through?
Absolutely. Well, I would just need to know your birth time
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
date, where you were born,
Mm-hmm.
and then the city, of course, the city that you were born, and then we would just kind of go from there. We'd be able to figure out which type you are.
Mm-hmm.
There's a projector, which is who I am. There's a reflector. There's a manifesting generator. There's a generator,
Oh,
and then
wow.
there's a manifester. So there's five major types, and then of course there's profile lines as well, and we can dive into that. That's essentially your personality, and there's both conscious and unconscious sides of all of that. And and so how I started just using it just for my own, so I could kind of get an idea of a better grasp of my clients. And
Right.
then I started to share it more and more. And then I started to offer more and more sessions just specifically for human design. And I could see not only the benefits that it had for me, but then also for my clients as well. But yeah, so we would do, like about a 90-minute like session where, it would be like a 12 to 15 page PDF of your unique design. And we would have a recorded Zoom session for that as well. And so you can refer to later, and we can always follow up as well and dive deeper. I mean, the cool thing about human design is it's almost like a conspiracy theorist. It's just so like a rabbit hole. So you just like explore more and more, and there's so much to it. And so there's obviously amazing information just on the surface level, but then you can get into, yeah, you just go dive deeper and deeper. And again, it's just like a deeper sort of like self-knowledge. It's almost, it
Hmm.
allows you to have more permission to maybe where, I guess I'm not going to be so general. I'll say what it offered for me was it allowed me to, like, I guess more permission for where I was judging myself and my certain characteristics. It offered a new reframe, a new perspective. And then I could also see where certain areas where I felt like I was struggling with and I
Right?
couldn't figure out why. And I could see that others, it was so easy for them. And then it gave me some more insight and knowledge of like, oh, that's the reason why. Okay, cool. Well, then I don't necessarily have to devote my energy and resources to that. It's just not necessarily in my blueprint. And I don't
Yeah.
necessarily, and also, and some of the things that, we tend to gravitate towards the things that we're kind of good at.
Mhm. Yeah.
We like that. And so the things that are like challenging and hard, we don't really like. And so I didn't
Right.
necessarily have to worry about doing some of that stuff. And it gave me permission to be like, okay, cool. I don't have to do that. I can either outsource that or I can be like, no, it's important. I value it. And so I need to, and this is how a good way of me, a good area of or a way for me to explore and learn to to make it work for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Sounds fascinating.
I would love I'll
Yeah.
give you if you're interested, shoot me an email and
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick little reading and then let me know your thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating because I do I
Yeah.
do deep dives all the time, right? Yeah. And it is a matter of, I don't think we can ever really, really know all that there is to know about ourselves, right? And
Absolutely.
that's the fascinating thing is that there's this exploratory to get to know yourself more and more and more rather than just be in a cookie cutter container and put you in a box and under the tree for Christmas. So
Yeah.
yeah, I love it. It's fascinating. And I know my audience will love it because I have a lot of people that contact me about, are you going to have, anything to do with astrology? Are you going to have anything to do with, tarot or, all this kind of stuff. So people are always looking, right? They're always looking and searching for the deeper meaning, even though sometimes people don't want to go there, like you say, right? But yeah, the beauty of this podcast, the beauty of my audience, of your audience, which you're now, going to be exposed to, is that the majority of them are pretty deep thinkers and they wouldn't listen if they weren't because the conversations are about that, right? They're about transformation. And that's why I was so thrilled to have you come on today because to me, what you have done, with regards to, Canada to California acting, and still a little bit in there. But with regards to the coaching, the self-sabotage and like you say, the human design and all that, it's a huge transformation. And sometimes maybe I don't know if you think of it that way, but I certainly do. And when I, knew about you and was kind of following you with regards to who I approached to be on, the show as well as people contacting me, it's people who have done the work and people who have gone through transformation. And you have, and you still are evolving more and more now, right? So that's the beauty of it, is that it is about transformation and it's about giving people a glimmer of sometimes when, we don't know who listens and somebody might just hear a tiny little snippet of this and that can in a nanosecond just seriously turn their life into, wow, there's possibility, there's hope, you know there's something else I should be looking into. And that's my hope in terms of sharing you with my audience, is that from your experience and from your sharingness, that people can go, oh yeah, so cool, right? Because it is, yeah. So I'm totally, like I say, I'm gonna share your information and your website and all that online and things. But if you just want to, maybe now share with what I consider your audience as well now, Ryan, just, if you could give them your website and any other information you want to give to them right now.
Thank you, Carla. Yeah. You can find me on my website at ryankhugh.com. That's ryankhoughh.com. And then same, you can find me on Facebook. I'm a little bit more, I guess, prevalent on Facebook. I tend to post a little bit more there. And then also on Instagram at From Ryan's Eye. And I can send you all of that
Yeah, please
if it's
do.
easier for you, for sure. But yeah, please, by all means, friend me and I'll return. And if any questions, by all means, I'd love that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I can't thank you enough. I really mean that from the top and the bottom and the middle of my heart. I'm just so grateful that you took the time, that you would be willing to come on and just let people know about what you have been through, going through. And yeah, it's just so inspiring. I don't like the word motivating. I'm not a motivator. I like to inspire.
I love
so,
it.
so,
Yeah.
so I just want to say, lots of love to you and to, your friends and your family, and, may you have a blessed holiday season coming up, Ryan.
Same to you, Collie. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And this is going to be airing on Sunday this week.
This coming Sunday? Awesome.
This coming
Great.
Sunday. Yeah. I get to go.
Quick turnaround.
I get to go and do artwork now. So
Good.
it's all good. So lots of love.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.